Welcome back, everyone, to the Gathering Movement interview series. My name is Bridget Cisco, and today I'm here with the beautiful, beautiful Nadia Last, and we're going to be talking all about discovering your soul's purpose and really connecting to who you actually are through human design. So thank you so much, Nadia, for being here.
I'm so honored to be here, Bridget. It's such a cool thing that you're starting, and I'm honestly very honored to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. So for anyone watching, the intention of this series is really to bring together pioneers, way showers, thought leaders, CEOs across all different industries. So from the healing arts to finance to herbs to health and fitness, all who are all really here to empower us to be the leader of our life. I think it's pretty simple, but it has a lasting impact on everyone. So thank you all for being part of this journey. And thank you especially, Nadia, for sharing your gifts with us today.
Absolutely. Let's get it going.
Let's jump in. So for people who have no idea what human design is, I would love for us to do like that little overview of what is human design.
Yes. Well, if you don't know what human design is, welcome to the party. It's a rabbit hole. I found out about human design about a year ago. A friend texted me. She was like, "Hey, I think that this system is meant for you when you're ready." And I was so intrigued, but it took me a couple months to actually look it up. And what human design is it's actually a synthesis of a bunch of different wisdom systems that have existed for thousands of years that humans have used to better understand themselves. So it's astrology, it's the Kabbalah, it's the I Ching, it's also the chakra system. And what it synthesizes all together, like we didn't realize this, but they actually fit all together. They're all a piece of this sacred puzzle. And what it shows us is literally, if you look up your chart, I would go on mybodygraph.com or any other site. You can look up your free chart. You'll see this kind of like funky diagram, and it literally shows you in your body your energy, where you have consistent access to your own energy. And Bridget has a lot of energy available to her. So I'm so grateful that she's, contributing that. And also where in your body you take in energy from other people. And what's so beautiful about this system is that it shows you your top, like energetic, the most prominent energy in your chart. And when you follow those energetic gifts, you can live out your destiny more easily. You can just flow with the way that your energy is meant to flow instead of fighting against it and trying to become something that you're not. So I think the last thing I want to say is human design is a returning to yourself. It's permission to be who you've always been. It's very inner child healing. It's like you've always been this way. Society might have just told you to be something different, to succeed in school. There are very narrow windows of success in today's society. And human design basically is like this breath of resonance of, wow, I am like this for a reason, and I can contribute this in a way that makes the world a better place.
So beautifully put. And I couldn't agree more. I think when we come into this world, many of us ask this question of who am I? What is my purpose? What am I here to do? What are my gifts? And I love all these languages like astrology, like human design, like the Enneagram, like Ayurveda that help us understand who we are and help us give us a blueprint to who we are. So I'm curious for you, how has this allowed you to kind of expand into your own purpose?
Oh, it was such an unraveling. I remember I was a little upset when I first read my energy type. There's so many facets about human design. There's your energy type, how your energy interacts with the world. There's your profile, there's your gifts. Like there's so many facets. But the first thing that I read about, it's kind of like your sun sign in astrology. Everybody knows, like, I'm an Aries sun. I'm not sure what you are, Bridget.
Leo.
Yeah. Oh, you're taking center stage, baby. Leo. Yes, I love that. I can very much sense that energy in you. So everybody knows that facet of astrology, but they don't realize that there's this moon sign and rising. So human design has so many facets. It's very complex. But at the very tip of the iceberg is your energy type. And there are 5 different energy types. And I found out that I was a projector, which means that I see very deeply into the other person. I'm meant to work sort of like one-on-one. I see systems and processes in ways that they can move better. But the trick is I actually work in spurts. I don't have all the energy to do everything. I more have the energy to see how other people are using their energy. And I remember reading that being like, I don't want to be a projector. I want to be the Bridget who is doing, having a million interviews and has all this energy, this tornado of energy. And I realized this was the deconditioning that I had to do is I cannot force my energy to be something that it isn't. I am meant to ask myself at the end of the day, not how much did I do today, but how well did I see and guide today? And so it was during this time I was working my corporate job in marketing that I was like, okay, I know that I'm here to guide people. What is it that I'm here to guide? And I started like asking myself, what do people come to me for advice about? And it was always relationships, talking about emotions, talking about personality tests. I've always loved personality tests. Human design is like the ultimate personality test, the ultimate. So if you like Myers-Briggs, like you're in for such a treat. And at the time I was applying to grad school to become a therapist. And it was when I was sitting with my chart, I found it at exactly the right time. I find that this is the case with human design. It finds people at exactly the right time. I saw in my chart, like, I'm good at listening. That's one facet, but I also have a lot to say. Like, I have a lot that I want to get off my chest. So I was like, okay, let me back up from this. And instead of just taking all the paths that have existed before me, I'm actually going to carve out a new path. It hasn't existed before. It's going to be part human design because I just love it. It's going to be part coaching because I also love that. It's going to be part maybe like the therapeutic feel of listening. And it's going to be a podcast. So that's basically like the different pillars of my business were started truly because it was reinforced in my human design chart.
And you're such a beautiful speaker too. So I'm glad that this allowed you to realize that like you have an incredible way of sharing information. So I'm so glad that you realized that about yourself.
Well, I remember applying to grad school, getting in for master's in therapy. And I was like, okay, what I'm going to learn in school is how to talk less. Like, I just need to sit and like listen to other people and not share myself. And then I read in my chart, like, I'm here to fully share. I was like, you know what? Screw that. I'm done becoming who I think I should be. And I'm just going to lean into who I am. Like, that's the whole shebang.
Repeat that again. Yes, we need to hear that.
Mantra. It is. And that's why I feel so passionate about sharing it. And there was this trepidation at first because I worked a very corporate job and it had no space for any of the woo or the things that really just can't be explained, but they're felt. And yet I kept feeling drawn to human design. And so there was this fear initially about sharing human design where I was like, what are people going to think about me? It almost felt like I was coming out in a way where it's like, there's this piece of me that's so into the esoteric and the occult and the mystery. Like, what are people going to think of me when I share? And I found that the more that I share about human design, people are coming out of the woodwork. Like the finance person at my company who we've only ever talked about numbers is like, okay, I'm closeted too. Like, I love astrology. I want to learn more. I'm like, what? We're entering into this new paradigm where people are like, 2020 is such a cluster. Like everything that we thought was true is being turned upside down. So now people are finally open to anything because it's like the events of this year that have transpired are so unfathomable that people finally are like, okay, whoa. What is real? Like, I'm just interested in dabbling now.
Yes. Yes. I couldn't agree more with what you are sharing right now. And I'd love for us to guide that person who's listening today. Where do they even start? Because I know for myself, when I went on to my body graph and I came up with this, like all these diamond shapes and different colors, I said to myself, what the heck is this? I don't get it. I don't understand. And it sounds like you're also this person who's like the bridge between understanding the system and bringing it into like layman's simple terms. So where do we start?
Thank you for that reflection. That is one of the most prominent gifts in my chart is the gate of like making sense of like looking at all the details and being like, that's all complicated. This is what you need to know.
Oh, I love it.
I receive that. And it's amazing to hear that from you. So if you sign into mybodygraph.com, that's just the site that I've used. They're all fairly similar. You'll look at your body graph and it's wild. It seriously looks just like kind of kooky because there are shapes, there are like these hieroglyphics almost on either side. There's like all this stuff. There's red and there's black and there's green. And what human design is trying to do in one photo is to literally show you a map of your soul. And that sounds profound because it is. Like every number on there, and there are decimals, there are like all these things mean something. And I feel so passionate about sharing this information because it has literally been a year of like daily returning to my chart and being like, oh, and then there's this facet that I never thought about. And there's this arrow that's pointed this way. And like everything fits together. So you're asking, so somebody signs into mybodygraph.com and you'll see your energy type. You'll see your profile, which is 2 numbers. It's like a decimal. And each of those means something. It's like your Myers-Briggs. Mm-hmm. And I would say if you want to like really get an in-depth perspective on all of these things, you can read up. There's a lot of people who are coming up in, Instagram and social media that are sharing information for free. But I would say the best way to like go all in on your chart is to get a reading. And I say that almost like with reticence because my business is absolutely doing readings, but I'm actually starting a series of videos where I'm going to go deep into every facet of human design. So it's available. And then if you want to know how your specific chart is like the energy is synthesized, do a reading. Because it's a tool that should be available to everyone. And the man who actually channeled this system, he passed away in 2011, and his family manages a lot of his like readings and teachings. And a lot of it is paywalled on his site. And so that's why I feel so passionate about sharing the information that I've learned, because this wisdom belongs to all of us.
I love this. I just love this. This is incredible. And I'm curious for anyone watching live with us, if you know your type, you're welcome to write this in the comments. I'm just going to add the website so anyone who's listening can kind of follow along with us. Mybodygraph.com, correct?
Yes, mybodygraph.com.
Okay. And then you'll find the chart.
Exactly. And I can go through the different types if that's helpful.
Yeah, let's go through it for a moment.
Cool. Okay, so there are 5 energy types. And what I mean by energy type is that you have your body, but there's also energy that emanates from your body. And each of our energies or our auras works in different ways. And it interacts with the world around us in different ways. And I kind of want to take a step back when I say energy, like this is a system of energy. And human design will explain things to you and you're like, whoa, I've never heard it articulated like that before, but I felt that before in my body. I literally feel what that is like. And the human language is very limited. And so it's difficult, but like human design does the very best job of sort of like describing your lived experience. Mm-hmm. And your energy types are very interesting. So the 5 actually work together in society. And I'm going to use the example of like the 5 types working together in a perfectly functioning society, building pyramids in ancient Egypt. So the first energy type is the manifester. And the manifester is like the pharaoh, the one that sits on the throne and has the vision where it's like, okay, I think we need to build pyramids. And I think that we need to build them like this, this, and this. And I say I think, but like it's more of a feeling, like an inner knowing. And manifestors are very rare. They're very powerful, and they're only 8% of the population. So these people are ones that need no invitation. They need to wait for nothing. They just move. Their energy is like, it's like the cue ball on a pool table that it like knocks into all the balls and it scatters. It's like they come in and they start shit. Can I swear?
Yes.
So there are starters, and they're like the flame, like the energetic match, but they're not meant to build the whole vision. So then we move to our generators, and there are 2 types of generators. There's a manifesting generator and a generator. Manifesting generators are almost like in between manifestors and generators, meaning that they can also move very quickly toward things, but they're still here to be approached. So the generator family, they are meant to respond to things. So the pharaoh is going to come to them and be like, hey, I have this vision for these pyramids. I want to build it this way. Are you excited about this? And the generators need to drop into their body and be like, okay, am I feeling like this buzzing energy available to me? Generators, when they're fired up about what they're doing, they could work for hours at a time. Manifesting generators are the types that work in between, like they're going in between all the three pyramids, and then they're building, and then sometimes they're using cement, and like they're whirring energy. Straight generators are more of this like mastering energy, where they're building one pyramid and they're doing it perfectly and they're working for 12 hours at a time. Manifesting generators have like 10 tabs open at the same time, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. My husband.
Amazing. and that energy is correct for them. It's like manifesting generators can have like 7 projects open at once, like around their workspace, and they'll just like flit in between them. So manifestors have the vision for the pyramids. Generators get approached by the pharaoh to be like, are you truly excited about this? Only work on this if your gut is like, yes. And they have this staying power to build, to create, to like bring things into form. Mm-hmm. And then our projectors, of which I am a projector, they walk in between everybody working and see everything. They're like, okay, they guide the process. They're like, you need to be building more efficiently. You need to like tweak the angle in which you're putting the bricks in. You don't use bricks to build a pyramid, I don't think, but you know, this analogy is going very far. But if they were actually building the pyramid themselves, they would be taking their energy away from their gift, which is like guiding people. Mm. Like they can only build for a few hours a day. They need to get back to guiding and seeing. And so that's why they don't have all the energy themselves, because they're meant to guide other people's life force energy to build. Mm. And then our last type, sorry, you want to say something?
It makes perfect sense. Just all of this as you continue.
Yeah, I guess I don't usually share examples, but Obama is a projector, not to like toot projector's own horn, but you can feel the energetic difference of who Obama was, whether or not, you know, regardless of your political beliefs, his energy was very much like, I see, I don't do. And that was a big systemic paradigm shift, I think, in the way that we're going to lead moving forward. It's like sometimes we can have leaders who don't necessarily always have to get their hands dirty, but they are seeing more. And that's valuable too. Mm. And so there's this shadow with projectors who are like, well, who am I if I'm not doing all the building and the creating? It's like that ability to see is just as valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And poor Obama, by the time he ended his presidency, he was so tired.
Yeah, right. Because I think I've heard that they're only supposed to work 4 hours a day. Is that a true number?
So this was the part about learning that I was a projector that I fought against tooth and nail. Mm. Like I work a corporate job.
Right.
How am I supposed to only work 4 hours a day? And what I've learned over time, it's this analogy of being in a yoga class and having people come to you and like adjusting your position. If a projector was taking the class, they couldn't do what they're really so good at, which is walking in between everyone taking the class and adjusting their poses. So what the system is saying is like, only take a yoga class for 4 hours a day. Like only do the work that really feels like work for 4 hours a day. When you guide people, you could do that for hours on end.
That makes perfect sense. And I think that probably also gives the projector freedom, right? Because when they hear that 4 hours a day, they go, but we work 40-hour weeks. Mm-hmm. So I love that. And I think that gives someone just the freedom to still be able to live their life.
Yeah. And when I learned that in my corporate job, like a tactical example, I looked at my schedule. I was like, what I love doing is having one-on-ones. And the types of one-on-ones that are like, how are you really? Like, how are you doing outside of work? And so I actually like slightly tweaked my job to like be more management, more guiding. And so then I would have like 3 hours blocked off in the morning when I had the most energy to like do the grueling work, the spreadsheets, the stuff that I didn't want to do. And then I reserved the rest of my afternoon for meetings with people.
That makes perfect sense. I love that.
And then our last type is our sacred reflectors. And you will know that you are a reflector if you log into mybodygraph.com and you see that all the shapes, the triangles and the squares, they're all white. And what that means is that reflectors actually they only take in energy from the world around them. They are like very sacred, very open. They can feel the health of the community at all times. Projectors are here to guide like one-on-one, seeing like one system or one person and like really going deep into it. Reflectors stand at the center of the community and they can feel all of the energy. They see everything. And it can be hard to be a reflector. You're only 1% of the population because it's overwhelming. It's like if you're standing in the center of a community that is not thriving, you'll feel like, oh, this is not good. And I can't control all this energy that I'm feeling right now that is like icky. And there are so few reflectors because they're literally supposed to be one per community reflecting the health of everyone around them. They're supposed to like walk up to the pharaoh and be like, hey, I see everything. This is like, we're going to have a postmortem of how we built these 3 pyramids. This is what we need to do better next time. And then I see everyone's gifts and how they all fit into the puzzle.
I love this. How many times am I going to say that on this interview? Let's start the count, friends. So how does all of this relate to our soul's purpose? You know, say that someone's listening and they're still in this meandering, navigating, figuring it all out, trying things out. How does it relate to what we're meant to do in the world on a soul level?
Yeah. All of these pieces of your human design are laddering up to understanding how your energy is just here to show up in this world and where you have energy to do things and where you get really lit up by things. And so there's actually a part of your human design called your incarnation cross. What it is basically your like top 4 gifts in your chart. And woven together, they tell the story of your life, basically. Like if you really stop trying to be all these energies that you aren't, and you lean into these 4 gifts that you have, this is your destiny during this lifetime. And it sounds very woo, and it sounds very like almost unbelievable that a system could tell you that. And it's not going to tell you like, Nadia, you have to start a podcast. It's going to be called this. You need to coach in this way. It's going to be like, this is your checklist. If it checks these 4 boxes of what you're doing, that is like an incredible contribution of your gifts during this lifetime.
Now, this is interesting because I don't know much about this incarnation cross. And I think that's why people should probably get a reading, because this is something online that you can't really find. And if you do find it, it doesn't feel like it's in those layman's terms that makes it easy for us to actually understand.
Yes. I remember reading I actually have the book of incarnation crosses right next to me. So if anybody wants to buy this, it's called the Book of Destinies, and it literally goes through everybody's incarnation crosses. But I remember reading the first line of mine was, you are here to describe the world and everything in it and processes of growth and evolution. And I was like, that is literally the premise of my podcast. And so you'll find these pieces of it when you're starting to live in your like sacred lane, like what you are here to uniquely do, your sole purpose. It has never existed before. You're just like following the subtle nudges from the universe. You'll read things in your chart and be like, it makes so much sense. Like it's starting to come together. And if I had gone to graduate school to become a therapist, I would still be in this place of chasing, seeking, trying to become something instead of leaning into who I am.
I think that's beautiful. And as we started this conversation, that's one of the things we're curious about the most. Who are we beyond what society or our parents or our coworkers tell us to be? And this is a system of unraveling all those stories. And it's a pathway back to yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I would say on this journey, be kind to yourself. Like I remember at 26, I was like, what is wrong with you? How could you have gotten this far into your life and never actually asked yourself, what do you want? And I was like very like angry with myself. Instead of like, show yourself some compassion. We go from elementary school to middle school to high school to sometimes college to like these corporate jobs that are another hierarchy where the answer exists outside of ourselves. So of course we've been conditioned away from the notion that you have everything that you need already within you. And you have this inner compass that has always been quietly whispering, like, go back to, that's why this is inner child work as well. And when I say inner child, I mean, when you were a kid, you knew exactly who you were. Before you went to school, before your parents told you to be something, your teachers told you, before you tried to fit in with other people on the schoolyard, when you were 5 years old, Bridget, I'm sure that you already knew the things that you loved. And you can look back at 5-year-old you and be like, oh my God, there's all these kernels of truth there. Like for me, I think the first sentence that I ever said that my parents would always say, like, you were obsessed with the moon. I would always say, look at the moon, look at the moon. And it's just started to come back to me. It's making sense. I published my podcast on the new and full moons. Like I love the moon.
I
So
love
like,
that.
we just need to give ourselves permission to go back to who we've always been.
I've asked this question a couple times of, I remember in yearbooks as a kid, it would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, you'd write it in there. And I would say teacher. And it's funny because now I realize like, it's not a school teacher, but like, I am a teacher. I am a leader. And to have that realization of like the young child in me knew that that was the greatest embodiment of who I truly was. It's just so powerful.
I got chills, and that's how I know the universe is like, yep, she's in it. It's like you are a soul teacher. You are teaching things that almost like cannot be taught in a school.
Yep.
So beautiful.
It's like delicious. That's like all I want to say about everything that we're talking about right now.
It's permission giving. Like, and I would be remiss not to talk about this like astrological portal that we're entering. Like 12/21/20 is an important date. Like we are leaving behind this Taurian energy of like building material, money being the sole motivation. And we're moving into Aquarius, which is the energy of the individual. Like, do you have enough courage to come back to you and also contribute your gifts in a way that heal the world? Like the world is very wounded right now. And that's why 2020 has felt so overwhelming, because it's like, oh my God, like there's so much that's broken. It's hard for me to even get out of bed because I'm so overwhelmed by everything that needs to get fixed. And what we need right now is for everybody to come online and be like, okay, I can't fix everything, but I can fix my lane. Like I can be in my lane.
The true change happens when we, the individual, decide to make the change. And I love the work that you're doing because we all need a blueprint. We need a pathway. We need a way to understand ourselves through language or community or guidance, the guidance that you give. And what a beautiful way that we are meandering into this Aquarian age, giving people back who they are.
And I do want to just like touch on this because it's not just it. I'm not actually guiding. What I'm guiding is like, I'm just giving you permission to step into the things that you've always been. I've always had so much issue with systems where it's like, I have the answer, like pay me, like because that's giving away our power again. That's saying somebody else has the answer. I like whenever I do readings with people, I'll tell them things and they drop into their body. They're like, oh my God, that has always been there. It's almost like I'm just like buffing it off and helping them like uncover their inner truth.
Yes.
Like we're done giving away our power. We're going to leave that at the door when we enter 2021. Like you have the answer. You have always had the answer. Stop taking an input from other people. Like quiet all of these external voices so you can hear the inner voice.
We speak the same language. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I would love to dive into sharing an actual experience, right? Sharing my chart so that we can give everyone who's listening a deeper understanding of what this could actually look like on the individual level.
Yes.
Where do we start?
Oh my God, where do we start? So when I first looked up Bridget's chart, all of those shapes, usually like 3 or 4 of them are colored in. For Bridget, let me count how many. There's only one that's not colored in. I have never seen that in anyone's chart ever before. And what that means is that she has so much consistent access to her own energy. Like Bridget, when you wake up in the morning, you have the gas tank full. You have inspiration pouring through, you have ideas, you have ways that you want to speak, you have like your identity, which is very defined, your purpose and the ways in which you move through the world. Like you have this wave of emotions that you ride, you go up and down. You have consistent access to like the way that you deal with pressure, this adrenaline that gets you up and gets you moving. You have intuition. You have this sacral energy, which is in your gut. That's like the fire. This is like everything. And the only center that you don't have defined is your heart. And this is where willpower is. This is where self-esteem lives. So the only place that you need to watch out for is when you feel like you're trying to prove something. And when you have an undefined heart center, I know this deeply because I do as well, your mantra is you have nothing to prove to anyone. Anytime you feel like, oh, I'll just do this thing because they're trusting me with it, like I better do it and I better prove myself, that is not you. You are not here to prove anything. And your heart is open so that you can actually sense who has healthy self-esteem or not. You are here to help people when you can tell, oh my gosh, that person's hurting. Their confidence is hurting. And I wonder how that comes up in your business, where you can literally feel when somebody's self-esteem is distorted and you can like bring them back into truth.
That's so funny because so a lot of the work that I do now is with entrepreneurs using their voice through live video to authentically share their offerings, to ditch the sales calls, all that kind of stuff, and just show up fully as who they are. And there's a huge confidence piece because when it comes to using your voice and being seen online, it's very vulnerable. You are sharing who you are, what you believe in, your values. So it's funny that you say that because there's a huge piece of confidence. And I love to inspire them to tap in to who they truly are and find that within them.
Yes. And it was likely one of the biggest initiations of your lifetime, stepping through this portal of, am I really going to show up and share my whole self? Because your poor undefined heart is like, oh no, we got to say the right thing. We got to be the right thing. Like, what are people going to think about us? Like, I don't have enough. And as a generator, which is your energy type, you're here to build, create, you have the energy and the staying power. You are also meant to guide people through the paths that you have already taken. Mm-hmm. Like you walk through an initiation and you're like, all right, y'all, the door is open. Who wants to come through? I will help you. I will step you over the threshold. Like I have felt this before. Let me now help you.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes.
I want to acknowledge like you have a lot of energy too. So it's like for a generator, you have so much buzzing within you that if you don't spend your energy correctly throughout the day, you will not be able to sleep. Correct. And so sleep is a huge indication for you and a gauge for you. Like look back at your day. If you fall into bed, if you're not falling into bed completely exhausted, you have not spent your day correctly. You should be falling into bed and like asleep in an instant. And you know the days where that has happened, where you're like, I am so fulfilled. I don't want to be doing anything else in the world. Like I'm exactly where I need to be. As opposed to the days where you fall, like you go into bed and you're like, I have to check something. I have to like read something. I'm buzzing. And so just use sleep as your sacred gauge, guidepost. When you can't sleep, don't get mad at yourself. Be like, okay, how did I use my energy today? And how can I tweak it accordingly?
I totally feel that. And I can typically tell because I usually fall asleep very easily because I've done like a million things in the day and walked like 10 miles and just like did 17 interviews. No, I'm kidding.
Like 10.
So that's really, really interesting. And I'm curious about the authority, right? Because everyone has this different authority. And how does that play out in their day-to-day or even with their soul's purpose?
Oh, I'm so glad that you brought this up. So in human design, we each have an authority. And it is not our minds. We need to unhook from the notion that our minds can do anything beyond like weighing the pros and cons. There's a reason why we all get stuck and we're like in our heads, like we're in our own heads. That saying exists for a reason. And human design, basically, it's like get out of your head and into your body. Each of us has an authority that lives in our body. It is a felt knowing. So do you have enough courage to bypass all of this monkey brain, is what one of my teachers calls it, in order to drop into your inner knowing? And that takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of trust in yourself. And there are many different authorities. Mine is splenic, which it lives in my spleen, meaning it's like a quick intuitive hit. Bridget, yours is emotional. And people with emotional authority, it's like half of the population that makes decisions this way. And that's why it's so important to talk about it because it's so misunderstood. If you have emotional authority, that means that your emotions are defined and emotions move in waves. Some days you're going to be in the mood for something and some days you're not. your emotions and how you feel about something is like such a beautiful indication. And what's hard about the emotional wave is that there are high highs and there are low lows. And so if your decision-making authority is your emotional center, that means that you need to give yourself enough time and space to make a decision. Someone's going to approach you with something, and Bridget, because you have so much energy, you're going to be like, I'm so excited, I want to say yes now. What you need to do is draw a boundary and say, I love this. It feels like such a big opportunity. Can I give this the space that this opportunity deserves and sleep on it? Asking people if you can sleep on decisions is going to be medicine for your soul, because what's going to happen over those 24 to 48 hours is you're going to ride that emotional wave. You're going to go through the high highs and the low lows. And it happens for a reason, because new information is revealed to you at each point in that wave. And you're going to come out after 48 hours. It might still be the same decision that you thought of before, but it's going to feel fairly neutral. And you're not going to feel any pressure to make a decision. You're never going to be 100% sure of it, but you're going to feel pretty sure. And for that, like knowing that you're no longer riding the waves, you're going to be like, okay, this is the right way to move forward.
Two things off of this that I just find so interesting. Number one, when I did start to fully understand and embody that I cannot make a decision in the moment, like I need my space, even if it's someone asking me to dinner or say it's an opportunity that's come my way, I have to give it time, because I have had moments where I then say, why the heck did I say yes to this? This was terrible. And then I'm not excited. I'm not lit up, and I'm not pumped to do it, which I'm typically really excited to do something. So that's number one. And number two is, it's really funny because before I had a deeper understanding of like the authority, just to a very base level degree, in my spiritual coaching program, I came up with something called finding your soulful essence, which is your midpoint. And the soulful essence is the true you. It's the space, the middle space. But to do that, you have to ride the waves. You have to basically see the waves and come back to the neutral space. And I think this is hilarious now, understanding that this is like literally part of my system. And I had to understand that to be able to say, this is something that you can do. This is something that can help you make decisions or ride out your emotions or feel things.
Feel things, and don't be scared of those feelings. Our
Right.
society has existed for so long where it's not safe to feel. And so if you have a defined emotional center, you're coming into relationship with your feelings as wisdom. Anger is showing you where you need to draw boundaries and where you're passionate. Sadness is showing you where you're grieving and where there is something, like all of it is information. So can you not judge the emotions that are coming up and be like, observe them, be like, oh, how interesting. I'm very sad about this. There might be some information in this for me.
Exactly. What about the numbers? I think I'm a 3, or I have 3 and 5.
Yes, you are. So this is the profile that I was saying before, is kind of like the Myers-Briggs. It's like if life is a play or a musical, your profile tells you the character that you are in that play. So it's kind of like the archetype of your personality. And it's also the characteristics that you can lean into in how you're playing out your life theme. So there are 2 numbers. It looks like a fraction. Bridget, you're a 3-5. And the 3 is the part of your personality that you're very conscious of. You know that you're like this in your life. And the 5, the second number in the profile, is what you're less conscious of. It's more something that other people have to point out about you, or awareness that you draw about yourself as you get older. So knowing both the conscious and the unconscious and how they fit together is really beautiful. And your 3-5 means that you as an archetype are like the great fixer. You like everything's on fire. You're in the middle being like, you do this, like totally calm, always having an answer, like always knowing the solution, always having a path forward. And it's a beautiful trait. And the archetypes that are together, the 3 is that you basically just bump up against life. All the different life experiences. Nothing is a mistake. You're going to try this, you're going to try this. And you're just kind of like going through life and just throwing spaghetti against the wall. Everything is an experiment for you. They call this the martyr because you are so beautifully bumping up into all the tapestry of lived experiences, so you can bring it back to your community and say, listen, I tried all of these types of shampoo. Like, this is the best shampoo. And they're like, thank you. I didn't want to try 50 shampoos. Like, thank you so much for doing that for us. And it's interesting because even these interviews, you're bumping up against all these conversations, but there are going to be a few that you're like, oh my God, that was insane. This is the root. And like, you're welcome, community. I'd sampled all of these things and I'm going to bring you something so potent. And then the 5, so you're conscious that you're that way, that you're always going to bump up into life. And it's like, there are no mistakes for you. It's very lucky. There are mistakes for other people. For you, everything adds to your toolkit. Everything, whether you failed or you succeeded, the failure is almost more valuable. It's just as valuable because it's like, that didn't work. And I'm going to share with you all what didn't work. When I tell you about the emotional wave, it's because I didn't follow that emotional wave for a long time. Like your trial and erroring, which is so beautiful. And then the 5 line that you're not as aware that you're like, it's called the Heretic. You are here to play very big. You are here to share things that might be a little bit uncomfortable, that have this universalizing power. People are going to hear you speak and they're going to be like, whoa, I have not heard that before. I've not heard anybody say it in that way. And it almost like it's challenging me. It's like challenging convention. It's challenging norms. And you are meant to be one to many. You're not necessarily supposed to be coaching one-on-one all day long. You're meant to like create modules, set them online and be like, access them at your own pace, because the way that you create your universalizing truth is like going away for a long period of time, cultivating the wisdom, sharing, and then disappearing. It's like you're giving a TED talk to 1,000 people, but you're not going to stick around afterward to have a conversation with each person that lines up to talk to you.
I feel so seen right now, everyone.
It's amazing. My partner's a 5th line as well. And it's so important for you to honor like setting boundaries for you, both with your emotional authority and the 5th line. As the great fixer, people are going to come to you all the time. Be like, you can fix something for me. You can solve something for me. I feel like you have something that I want. And you have to honor that. The more that you give into those little side DMs or messages or whatever it is, it's keeping you away from like writing the big book that you're going to release and thousands of people are going to read it. And it's not in a narcissistic way. It's not in a way where it's like, I don't have time. It's like, no, you literally don't have time because you have to be writing the book.
I so feel this. And it's funny on a couple levels. I've always loved group coaching. I always love community. Like I have 2 Facebook groups because I love the community. I love to serve more than one. And my spiritual name is Priti Daljot Kaur. And it literally means the princess who's connected to God's love through embracing the collective. It's all about like community and group and the larger vision, like for me on a deep, deep level. So that hearing you say that is kind of just like that further confirmation that yes, this is.
Yes. And look at even the title of this, the gathering movement. It's not like a little thing. It's not an initiative. It's a movement. You are moving large groups of people in the direction of things that they don't even know that they need. And this energy, this 5th line energy, is actually amplified in your chart because the most prominent gift that you have is the gate of retreat. And that means that you need to retreat from people in order for you to like process what's happening. Like you need ample time alone in your own space, away from everybody after something has happened. And it's like in a corporate job, how you do these postmortems after a project. It's like, what went well, what didn't go well. Your energy desires this like deep rest after something happens to be like, okay, let me process. Things are going to come through your channel that you're like, whoa, that is so wise. And then you're going to come back to the collective and be like, okay, this is the way that we're moving forward.
This is hilarious. I have to make this note. When my husband and I first met and we knew we were just so connected on such a deep level, one of the first things I told him was, don't be alarmed when I need my alone time. Yes. And when I don't want to hang out with you.
Yes. Because your energy is like, uh-oh, this is a situation in which I could have my energy dimmed or suppressed. You have likely felt in your life before a relationship where you weren't allowed that space, or growing up as a kid and not having your own space, like whatever it is. And you're like, I need to set those boundaries. I know that's important. I don't even fully know why it's so important to me, but your magic, Bridget, is created when you're alone. Like that's it. That's like your secret. That's your secret sauce. So like give yourself ample alone time. Like the retreat is so important because you're going to come back and people are going to be like, where did that even come from? You're like, I don't know. I just took a bath and like that's what came through.
Literally, Nadia. Oh, this is amazing. And I'm so excited for anyone who chooses to learn more about human design for themselves, because we all want to feel seen. We all want to feel loved. We all want to feel enough. And there are so many things in our life where we don't feel that way. So if there are systems and languages and ways to come back to ourselves and remember that it is safe to be seen, it is safe to be heard, it is safe to be you. I mean, imagine the world where we had more people who are just embracing all of their God-given gifts.
And I always say, like, the most surprised, I don't always say this actually. I was on a walk today and I thought of this, that I'm so grateful that I found human design, because I think before I didn't have as much compassion or empathy, which is kind of a bad thing to say because I was thinking about becoming a therapist. But it's like, I thought that there was like my way. And reading people's charts and seeing their energies, like each of us has something so much, like so much to give. And people that I previously did not understand, where I'm like, I just don't like that. It's like, no, I didn't understand that. Their energy is this way. You're not going to change them. It's given me compassion for my partner. It's given me compassion and empathy for my friends. It's allowed me to see all the beautiful gifts that we all have. Mm-hmm. So
I love that. As you're saying all this, I'm realizing what I'm loving about human design is it's not like you're a generator, so you're meant to do X. It's not like a profession, right? And many people are equating your purpose to like that profession. This is on such a deeper level. This is on the soul level of some of your just gifts, your energy. It's beyond any label, which, I mean, this is the Aquarian age. Like that is it right there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Could not have said that better. And it's so beautiful because it's like, once you know the energy, you can apply it in so many different ways. Like for me, sharing my voice could be on a podcast, it could be on an interview, but it could also be singing. Like I realized in the shower today, I'm like, oh my God, I love singing. Like I'm just going to start singing. Like that's also my voice. And it's like, once you can identify the energy, it's like, oh, there's that energy again. You can see it's like this ripple effect where you're like, oh my God, there are unending possibilities of ways in which I can use my energy.
I love this. I have one question that I've always thought about, so I figured I'd ask it to you. Does the chart definition have anything to do with people being more of an empath? Like I think of a reflector and I think like, okay, wow, yes, probably someone who's considers themselves more of an empath. I have never felt like an empath.
Yeah, that's because you create all your own energy.
Okay, so this is true, right? This is true.
Okay, so yes. So the shapes in your chart, where they are colored in is where you won't feel other people's energy because you have your own there. And you have 8 of the 9 centers defined. So it's mostly you. And you're here to be creating and building, and it's you. Where you have white shapes is where you take in energy from people around you. And that's, they call it being an empath, but it's literally where you feel other people. And so for you, you feel other people's confidence and sense of self-worth. Like that is part of being an empath. Like you feel that. Everything else you don't feel. Like you got enough happening inside of you.
That's exactly how I've always felt. I'm so glad that I asked that because I'm like, this has to be something. Like this just has to be something.
And when you're fully open, if you're a reflector or if you have most of your chart open, I feel like it's even more important for you to find this system. Because what happens when you have it open is that you almost amplify it. Like Bridget, you likely struggled with feelings of self-worth for so long, thinking that you had negative self-worth until you realized, no, I was just sampling and taking in and amplifying other people's lack of self-worth. And so it's so important for us to unidentify in those centers from like the conditioning that we take on that isn't ours and come back to like neutral.
I'm just like at a loss for words, which is not really common for me.
It's felt. It is felt. And it's like a coming home, a retreat is the word that I'll use for you because you love retreat.
And my generator response is like,
Yes.
I love everything. Is there anything else people should know or remember when it comes to human design as we kind of close out our time together here?
I think it feels really important to share that there might be this reticence or this voice in your head that comes up where it's like discovering your soul purpose. Like you haven't discovered it up until this point. So like, how do you think that you could discover it now? Like, what makes you think that you have the ability to do that now? And it's such an important shift that we're going through in our society. Like, what has worked before is no longer working, and we can see all of the ways in which it's no longer working. So, like, you might have lived your life on autopilot up until this point, but you are so supported energetically to like come online to your gifts. And just like, even if you don't do a human design reading, or maybe you just research it, like whatever you do, even if it's not human design related, your permission today is to be like, how does my energy want to work? And how much better would it be if I just like step into the flow of like my energetic river instead of like swimming so hard upstream? Like if you want to lay down while you're doing work, lay down while you're doing work. Like if you want to take a walk in the middle of the day, take a walk. Like working remotely for many of us has given us the permission to follow our energy throughout the day. So like that is your initial experimentation invitation.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so beautiful. What a time to be alive, everyone. And my hair looks wild right now. The lion in me, the Leo has come out. I have so much hair. I love that this is all about permission. It's all about permission to embrace who we truly are. It's about permission to strip away all the labels that society, maybe we have placed on ourselves. And it's just permission to honor who we truly are at the core of our being. That's what this is.
Yes. That's what it's all about. And have fun doing it. Like play with your inner child today. Do something that 5-year-old you would want to do. Like don't judge it. Sing in the shower, like bake a cake, whatever it is, like have fun. If you're not having fun, what's the point?
So true. I'm about to have a dance party after this.
Hell yes. Get that energy out. Get it moving.
Woo! It's going to be awesome. So Nadia, how can people, I'm sure everyone who's listening to this is like, where can I get a session right now? So how can they connect with you further?
Oh, I've always heard people ask that question on podcasts. It feels so nourishing to be asked that question. So thank you. You can go to nadialast.com. I do readings. I do partnership readings. Like how does your energy interact with the person that you're in business or personal relationship? I have an Instagram at nadialast_. If you want to DM me, if you have any questions, I'd love to support your process. If you're feeling some reticence in booking a session, it's big. And I also do coaching. So if you feel called to work together one-on-one, you can set up a free intro call and we can drop into each other's energy and I can see how I can support you.
I love this. And actually, one of my questions was going to be about partnerships. So I'll have to look at that for my husband and I, because that would be exciting.
It's so much fun. I love doing them on anniversaries because it feels like this beautiful reset where it's like, whoa, we've been together 5 years. What is this next year going to hold for us? And I think greater understanding and partnership it starts with energy. How does your energy work and how does my energy work?
I love that. Thank you so much, Nadia.
Of course, Bridget, this was such a treat. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you for everyone who was able to listen live today, who is here to receive this beautiful, beautiful information. And as Nadia told you all, I'm here on a big, big mission. It's not just about me. This is about a global movement of change. So my goal for 2021 is to interview 100 pioneers, way showers, just badass humans who are here to make a difference in the world in a major, big way. So if you know anyone who would be a great fit for this, I would love for you to tag them below so that we can really create this global gathering movement of coming together and empowering one another. Thank you so, so much, everyone. And thank you, Nadia. See you later.